Hi, my name's Chad, and I bought a fixer-upper. And I had a few messages saying that people miss videos, so I thought I'd do a little quick update, even though there's not too much to share. Here we go. Okay, so since last time, I've done a few things, and most of it has been installing fire blocking, and that's pretty representative example of my work. It is not clean or neat, but I don't care because no one's gonna see it. And fire blocking, if you're not aware, is something that you can put in a balloon framed home to keep fire from spreading between floors. So I get to go to every joist bay all around the perimeter of the house and cut a piece of wood to fit, secure it in place, and then use fire caulk, special fire caulk, to close up any joints or gaps. That's one project I've done. And another project I'm doing that I kind of started on today is to frame the windows. So back in the day, builders didn't feel the need to put framing around a window opening. They just would cut a hole in that planking. It's 3/4 inch, usually old growth hardwood planking, and it's sturdy and stable, and clearly the house hasn't fallen down, so it works. But I don't like it for a couple reasons, and one is that it's hard to get a nailing surface for trim on the inside, and it's hard to get a taping surface on the outside for building wrap, and so it can get really it can let a lot of air move through it. It can be really drafty, and one of the ambitions I have with this house is to improve its energy efficiency. So I thought I would go around and frame around the window. And a modern framing job would have 2 king studs on the either side with a header that's running across, usually a 2x6 header, depending on the span, maybe a 2x8 or a 2x10 header. And it would be a sandwich job, so you'd have one 2x6 on the outside, a spacer board, and a 2x6 on the back side that would run the whole length, and that's really good at distributing weight. I decided I didn't want to try and manage the weight distribution if I was going to remove the studs connection to the planking that I currently have. And so what I've done is I've just turned a 2x4 on its side, and I've run that along the top of the window frame. The window, I don't know if it's technically the frame or the window casing. I'm not too up on my window terms, and there are a lot of them, but I will do one partial height stud on either side. It will tie into a top piece, and then the bottom piece, the sill, isn't in yet. It needs more work, and it's just been a real fight with this window because this is also a window that originally had iron weights in the space where I have my new studs. So what I had to do was cut out the window weights. And if you're not familiar, these are examples of window weights, and they can tie into a rope, and then the rope runs through a pulley in the top of the window frame, and it gets embedded part way down, or most of the way down, here. So there's a knot you tie in the rope, there's a little hole that it comes up in, and then the rope runs up to the pulley, and then around here into where the stud, where the stud used to be a space, and it attaches to a weight. And these windows are very heavy, and it helps make it easier to move them up and down without breaking them. And I have decided that the house is eventually going to need new windows. Either I'm going to do it or the next owner is going to do it. And the easiest way to do that is to have a framed opening where you can take a new window, take the old one out and just slot the new one in, add some building wrap, use the nailing fin to secure it, and then you have a new window. It's a little tough to do that if it's planking, and if the planking is missing pieces and parts, the bugs have eaten it, etc. So I've gone and done this 2x system, and what I have done to try to leave the windows functional is to attempt to mortise out the space. It's not pretty, but I've done it. mortise out the space where the rope's going to come through. And then this also helps it sit up flush against the old window casing. And then the rope can come down into this space here, and the weights can go in this space, which I don't love it, but it's it is what it is. You know, you're not going to get perfect, and I think this is a good compromise. It should keep the windows functional, which might help the resale value of the home while making reinstallation or upgrades relatively easy. It's more thermal bridging than I want. Studs can make it tough to get good insulation. Too many studs can make it tough to get good insulation in your house, and this is a lot of studs and a little bit of space, so it could still be cold and drafty by the window. But it gives me a chance to come through and inspect each window. I pretty much have to pull it apart in order to get the window weight and ropes out, so I can do this, and then I can see if the window can be salvaged, if I can put it back into service myself, or if it really needs to come out and be replaced. And this window's in really good shape. There's not really any rot on it, and unlike some of the windows in the upstairs that have a latching mechanism that tends to gouge out the face of the, I don't know what you call this, but the inner run of the window track, there's none of that. I do have one crack in the glass on one of the upper panes, and so I'd like to get a smaller pane and replace that. And the putty, the glazing putty that holds the pane in place and helps with the kind of air management, is really, really old. It needs to be replaced. And then on top of that, the window opening it's just got 100 years of dirt on it. You know, it's really filthy. So it needs cleaned, it needs scraped, it needs repainted, and it needs I mean, if I'm going to keep original wood stain, I'll have to take the paint off the window frame, the sashes, because they're painted. But it's not necessarily too much work, and it's relatively easy. I mean, I had to fight with the upper sash for probably an hour to get it to come down. It was locked in with old paint and dirt and junk. But once I figured out kind of what was holding it in, I was able to get it out, and I'm able to clean it up and probably put it back into service. So that's really exciting. The other thing on this window, and these two big picture windows on the front of the house, is they have original screens, and so I've pulled the screen off to help kind of get in here and work on this thing. But they still have the original hooks for the screens, and so they hinge on these hooks, and then you can swing the screen up, and it'll connect to the ceiling of the porch. And it's just a nice, it's an interesting old-timey feature that I'm going to try to keep in the house, just because it's interesting. But yeah, if you look real close, you can see the paint's in real bad shape. Everything needs to be scraped. I managed to break my scraper trying to clean this mess, so I have to go get a new scraper, and I need to go get new window putty, and I'll probably have to practice with that. And I would love to clean this hardware off for the screen, and the screen needs redone. Honestly, it needs rebuilt, because there is some rot on this, but it shouldn't be too bad. Some pretty simple tools would most likely do the job, and I could probably even get away with just replacing the screen for a little while. So that's mostly what I've been up to. I have made a large purchase as well. I had bought an HVAC system, and this is all the various pieces and parts, and the condenser is outside. This is going to be a big project, and it's one of the reasons why I want to finish this framing. Since I decided to do it, it will mean that these studs have to go in, these new studs have to go in before the electrician can make his runs. So yeah, this is sequence of operations, got to get done. Can't really lark around and do other stuff like I like to do. So yeah, it's been a challenge. Been a challenge to get motivated and stay motivated and keep working on this stuff. But it's improving, and you may have inferred this or been thinking of this, that, you know, I've in the past complained about the cellulose insulation. Well, installing the fire blocking, put a lot of cellulose insulation down here on the main floor, and it's disgusting, and I hate dealing with it. And it's just, yeah, it's hard to be motivated to deal with junk like that, but I did it. The floor is relatively clean. I've sorted and organized a room for lumber, and a workbench, and yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. There's a stupid amount of stuff to do, but it is getting a little bit easier, and it is progress. And work is still ridiculous and time consuming and exhausting. But it's little things moving forward. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Okay, quick update on the window framing. The effort I was talking about to mortise out an opening for the pulley and the rope, I've gone entirely away from that. It is way too much work. Probably wouldn't even work, at least long term. I believe that the bottom of the mortise would scrape the rope enough that the rope would break, and then the weight would drop inside the wall. So the wall would have to be opened up in order to get it. Plus, you'd have to open up the wall again anyway when you go to replace the window and you cut the weight. Otherwise, you'd crush all the insulation, and you might also grab any wiring that's running down below as it drops. Between that and the fact that mortising out those two pockets for the two pulleys takes a lot of the structural strength out of the 2x4, I decided it's just not worth it, and I'll just make wooden pegs that can be kept with the window, so the window sash can be propped up if someone wants to open the window before it's replaced. Some of the windows are a little big for that and heavy, and it might be dangerous, but that's a risk I'm willing to take because I have to have a path forward, and that one wasn't going to work. So yeah, I've also gone to framing over the window with 2x6 header instead of the flat 2x4 like I talked about in the beginning. Changed my mind about it partway through the couple days after shooting those last videos.